You've ever felt completely drained from that constant, exhausting effort of just trying to prove yourself right in your marriage? You are in the exact right place. We see it all the time, right? The endless arguments, the emotional fatigue, that feeling of just running on a treadmill and getting absolutely nowhere. Well, today, in this deep dive, we're uncovering 7 secrets to becoming a highly intelligent and high-value wife. We're going to bridge modern psychology with some truly profound traditional wisdom.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've all heard the old saying, haven't we? The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. But is that actually true? Well, modern psychology and ancient wisdom both challenge this age-old myth head-on. They suggest that, hey, while cooking a great meal is wonderful, there's a much deeper, unseen psychological reality at play here. And it's a reality that we honestly constantly ignore in modern relationships. It's not just about the food, it's about fundamental psychological needs.
Now imagine 2 very different homes. On one side, we have an environment where a man is so deeply connected that he's literally willing to fight the world just to see his wife smile. Sounds amazing, right? But on the other side, we have a home where the very walls are built on sarcasm, anger, and just constant bickering. Think about this for a second. Which reality do you actually want to live in? This stark contrast is exactly what we're addressing today, because it all comes down to the environment that you consciously choose to cultivate.
To build that positive reality, we're going to explore a really fascinating framework today. We'll look at the unseen reality, the core needs of respect and emotional safety, the true art of communication, maintaining your identity and personal space, and finally, the spiritual anchor. So let's start with part 1, the unseen reality, and how we can actually bridge psychology and theology. Moving right along to part 2, we need to talk about respect and emotional safety. These are absolutely core needs. Now here is a massive difference in human psychology. While a woman's core emotional need is typically to feel unconditionally loved, a man has a fundamentally different core requirement. According to extensive research by psychologist Dr. Shanti Feldhahn, get this, 74% of men find a lack of respect significantly more painful than a lack of love. Let that sink in for a moment. To a man, respect literally is love. And this psychological data perfectly aligns with Islamic teachings, which elevate men as protectors, or qawwam. When a wife respects her husband, especially in front of others, it fulfills his absolute deepest psychological craving.
And this brilliantly illustrates what that respect actually looks like in practice. An intelligent wife transforms her home into an emotional safe haven. It becomes a place of complete acceptance. She doesn't turn the living room into a courtroom where the husband feels like he's constantly put on trial, facing a never-ending complaint register the very moment he walks through the door. If the outside world is stressful, the home absolutely must be a sanctuary, not an interrogation room.
It's genuinely incredible to see how perfectly modern science aligns with ancient theology here. Relationship expert Dr. John Gray notes that men are naturally drawn to women who accept them without constant criticism. Now pair that modern clinical observation with the Quranic truth stating that spouses are created so you may find peace in them. They both agree. The outside world is a literal battlefield for men, so when they come home, they are desperately seeking unquestioned peace and acceptance.
That brings us to part 3, the art of communication, specifically focusing on listening and appreciating.
So, a high-value wife communicates differently, right? And the psychological reality here is that men simply do not process emotions the same way or even at the same speed as women. They just don't process complex feelings immediately. When a man is stressed, he doesn't necessarily want immediate advice or a well-intentioned lecture. Actually arguing, taunting, or forcing him to talk only pushes him further away. What he actually needs, for sure, is a non-judgmental partner who gives him the grace to process things at his very own pace.
This brings us to a really cool biological mechanism, dopamine release. Psychologist William James theorized about the deep human need for appreciation long ago, and today, modern biology completely confirms it. When a wife shows genuine gratitude for small efforts, even mundane things like paying a utility bill or picking up groceries, it triggers a literal dopamine release in the husband's brain. This biological chemical reaction makes him feel valued and deeply, deeply motivates him to work even harder for her.
And this psychological concept of appreciation, it's beautifully anchored right back to Islamic teachings. The meaning of this hadith, that one who is not thankful to people is not thankful to the Creator, shows that gratitude is an essential spiritual practice. In the context of marriage, gratitude acts as the ultimate master key to a man's heart. It's simple. Complaining locks the door, but genuine appreciation, that opens it wide.
Now, let's shift gears to part 4, identity and personal space, and what it means to be a high-value woman.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that it highlights one of the biggest mistakes women make after getting married. It's governed by the psychological rule of availability. The mistake is revolving your entire existence and identity around your husband. Psychologically speaking, when you do this, you actually drop your own perceived value. A highly intelligent wife loves fiercely, absolutely, but she doesn't become an emotional burden. By maintaining her own identity, her own goals, and her own spiritual life, she remains interesting. Her independence actually creates a very healthy, subconscious fear in her husband of losing her, which keeps that attraction vibrant and alive.
Part of respecting your own space is respecting his, specifically a concept known as cave time, or gar kawakt. This is a well-documented psychological need for a man to just withdraw into silence to process his stress. Do not panic when this happens. When your husband goes quiet, it does not mean a lack of love. It is simply how his brain reboots. Forcing a conversation during his cave time is only going to cause friction, so it's absolutely vital to just let him have his space.
And giving space also means giving trust. There is a really fascinating psychological observation regarding blind trust versus snooping. Offering blind trust actually compels a good man to honor it. It acts like a moral anchor. On the other hand, constant suspicion, checking his phone, snooping around, it just creates a suffocating environment. Ironically, treating a man like a suspect often pushes him toward the very secretive behavior you were so afraid of in the first place.
Finally, we arrive at part 5, the spiritual anchor. This is the ultimate secret.
Now, this is the one ultimate secret you will absolutely never find in a Western psychology textbook, because the core message here is profound. True control of hearts belongs only to the divine. It is so essential to stop wasting your precious emotional energy on ego clashes, stubborn arguments, and manipulative tactics. You literally cannot forcefully control another human being. So instead of trying to control your husband, the advice here is to step back, let go of the frustration, and ask the Creator for his heart instead.
So what is the spiritual action plan here? First, intentionally abandon the ego and the stubbornness. Just let it go. Second, stop relying on exhausting arguments or little psychological tricks. Instead, tap into the power of spiritual connection through late-night tahajjud prayers. Let the quiet, sincere tears in prostration in sajda do the heavy lifting for you. Winning a husband's deep love isn't about dark magic or complex manipulation. It is a beautifully peaceful blend of understanding his natural psychology and relying entirely on divine principles.
And that brings us to a powerful, pretty provocative final question. Will you choose to lose the relationship's argument in order to win his heart? It forces us to ask ourselves what is truly more important, feeding our ego by being right in a fleeting argument or cultivating a lasting, deeply loving marriage. I really invite you to reflect on that question today. Think about how applying these 7 secrets, from respecting his psychological needs to trusting in a higher spiritual anchor, could completely transform the reality of your relationship. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.